Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. You ever wonder the pressures that women have to endure? Where you going, Dre? Let me go deeper. Imagine being a female and trying to navigate the financial world. Money. It's kind of what it is. Women and money. Today, that's what we're going to talk about. Women and money and financial independence. I guess that's a good way to put it. Today on the show, we have a young lady who definitely is striking a match on this topic to bring awareness. And I'm a firm believer that experience makes great teachers. Great teachers make great leaders. But it all starts from something from the past. Today, all the way from Tampa, Florida, we have a beautiful young lady who's definitely, like I said, striking matches up under people's asses, especially women. Robin Snell, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andre.
Your resume, let's say bio, is pretty scary here. These are some things that I know made you a great leader. And we're going to talk about these things. Let's talk about the weird and authentic self. Let's talk about trying to understand and master perfection and self-doubt, fitting into the world. These are some serious things that I can tell by the business that you launched resonated in the creation of the business that you founded and started. Before we go down that route, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Well, I am not your old school financial advisor, right? I am quirky. I am strange. I have the mouth of a sailor. But that doesn't hold me back from being able to help and educate women, their families, the LGBTQIA community about their choices and about their options when it comes to finance. Not from, your traditional aspects of it, like, oh yes, save more, invest more,
Mhm.
try to do your best with your budget, but really about creating a happy life for them. And that's where I created the financial happiness method.
Hmm. Let's go back a little bit. You traveled around growing up from Texas, the Bay Area, Oregon. I believe that's what you said, Oregon.
Mhm.
Like, who goes to Oregon? If it weren't for the football team making headlines, nobody would probably even go there. But what was it like for you growing up as a child? Because you mentioned some key things here, and a lot of these key things, you wouldn't think that it resonates to money. But what was it like for you growing up that money was a problem for you?
Yeah, great question. Starting off, we as a family did not have a whole lot of money. Like, my mom was buying dolls from the thrift store and sewing their heads back on. But my parents slowly built some success. And the way that my father versus my mother, the way they handled money was very, very different. My dad, didn't worry or think about it too much, and that was probably to detriment. Whereas my mom was watching every single penny, and it caused a lot of friction between them and a lot of arguments. Like that was the main argument in our household was money. You're spending too much. You need to loosen up. All of these things that cause friction in a family. So growing up, I came to the conclusion, and my mom being very financially minded, that money was a problem. It caused troubles and anxiety in our family. And I had to be very, very careful with it. I couldn't just be spending willy-nilly. I couldn't be getting a new pair of jeans all the time, or, I couldn't be going out to lunch all the time. So it was a very, very guilty pleasure money was like, okay, well, we're not going to spend that now. So growing up, all of a sudden, when I had my own money, I wasn't comfortable spending it, and I didn't know how to spend it properly, and I didn't know, the ins and outs of investing and things like that. I mean, in school they were teaching us square dancing. Like, why did I need to know that? I needed to know how to do taxes and how to invest and how to save for my future. So it was you know, kind of double-sided. My dad would spend willy-nilly and my mom would get on him about it. So having that kind of upbringing gives you a different mindset around money.
You mentioned something that your mom going to thrift stores. So basically, you had money, but neither one of them really knew financial literacy on how to make it where it would be beneficial. Your mom felt it best to go to thrift stores and so forth and to save a nickel. Your father was like, okay, as long as we got some money in the bank, we're good to go. But you still said it caused a rift. Did they did eventually they still stayed together through this, correct?
Yeah, they stayed together, they built businesses, they've traveled the world together until my dad passed. And they did well for themselves, but at the same time, they didn't have investments, outside of my dad's 401k, which ended up being used to buy businesses. So there wasn't the traditional sense of like, okay, we're going to save, we're going to invest, we're going to be able to retire on this. Um, so yeah, while there was a lot of friction, they still stuck together and built together.
What was your fear factor? Because when you talk about um, perfection and when you talk about confidence, when you're talking about the guilt trip of finances, how did as you got older and you became on your own and you said you was even fearful about spending your own money, when did you realize that now you're suffering from the same phobia mindset that both of your parents had?
Yeah, great question. It slowly came as I became more educated, right?
Hmm.
Getting degrees in finance, marrying my husband and managing my own household, and seeing how he was also brought up differently, not with a whole lot of money either, but he had a different mindset. His upbringing caused him to say, okay, well, for my family, for my son, for my wife, I want to never feel like money is an object that I can't use as a tool. And he's very generous with it and he wants the best for us. And seeing that and going, oh, you know what? Maybe the way I was raised isn't the end all be all, right? That's not necessarily the best way. And having some sort of balance where I can start to spend money on things that are valuable to me, whether that's travel or experiences with my family, and not feel guilty about that and not feel icky when I pay that bill or swipe that card.
How long was this a major factor for you? How long you been married?
We've been together now going on 15 years. Yeah.
So this is far-fetched. I'm just saying, and a lot of women have been programmed to do this. Did you get married for fear of lack of the money, fear for the stability that comes with it? What do you think now? Because did you, let me back it up because so it make it a little bit clearer. Did you have the financial literacy, education, and knowledge before you married your husband?
Not to the level that I do now,
Okay, so
right?
now let me go back and make this where it makes sense. Because you specialize with women and finances. So that's why I'm taking this. If you're coming from a fear-based mindset when it comes to money and being a female, and let's even go deeper. What if you have children? Do you marry for the financial stability as well as the thought of love.
Absolutely 100%. When I met my husband, he was coming off being 10 years active in the military. No one's in the military for money. Um, Definitely for love. And we, didn't take the traditional path. Like it wasn't like, okay, met, engaged, instantly married. It was years and years of us living to bought a house. We actually, you know, we had a baby before, well, I was pregnant when we got married in the courthouse, but I didn't realize that I was pregnant. So it was this kind of weird path, not the traditional path. And
Mm,
it definitely wasn't for financial security, which a lot of women, especially in previous decades, was go to college, meet a husband, and that's the rest of your life.
mhm.
Raise the kids, maybe not work, maybe not even think about the finances. So no, that was not what it was. I was much more financially savvy than him. It just, that wasn't part of it. And I've always been kind of a strong feminist woman, so he didn't have to take on that role from the traditional sense.
You now have a program that you deal with
Mhm.
women and finances. And the reason that I said that to you wasn't to signal you out. I'm just
Right,
this
right.
as a tool to navigate what you do. How many women in confidence have actually gone that route because it's easier? Or more importantly, how many women don't understand that they don't have financial literacy to make solid decisions, and that usually becomes their only way out? You deal with women in finances. How widespread is that theory coming across your plate?
I see it all the time, right? Not necessarily just with my clients, but with women that I'm on the PTA with or that I interact with my son. Um, it's really, really common to hear, oh, well, my husband takes care of that, so I don't have to pay attention to that. Or, oh, I didn't know as a stay-at-home mother, I could have my own retirement accounts and be contributing to those equally.
Mm,
I see ones that maybe made that decision the easy way.
mm.
But in reality, they're in a relationship that they don't feel an equal. They don't feel like they have control over the money, and they don't feel if they want to, they don't feel that they can leave because they don't have the access to the accounts or they don't have now the work experience to go out and provide for themselves in a meaningful way that could replace and continue on their lifestyle that they have right now.
So the
So now they're
financial,
having to make choices for themselves from a smaller bag of choices.
so what appeared to be the Cinderella story can actually be a self mechanism of self destruction without them knowing it. Because all it would take is what, I'm pretty sure you see this, what the man leaves, and then the woman goes, "What the heck do I do now?"
Exactly. I'm locked out of my accounts. I don't even know. He put all the debt in my name. I hear horror stories. And it makes me really sad because women didn't know, or they were being too trusting, or just didn't have the conversations, or the conversations were scary with their husbands. And so, there's this unfortunate event that they all of a sudden have to relearn what they maybe learned before or never have learned before.
Or they go back and do the same repetitive cycle and see if maybe they can pull the slot machine and get a different outcome. But part of insanity is doing what? Repeating the same thing and expecting different results.
You're spot on.
Um, what are how difficult is your program to navigate, and who is the primary candidates for your services? Because one thing that we do here on the show is we educate and we empower individuals, and this is definitely a learning lesson based on your experience as well. So I would assume all of your knowledge putting it into this program is based on a lot of your experience. You've seen these things, but who is the primary candidate for this? how do you even recognize that you may or may become a victim of women financial unindependence? Dang, did I just say that big word?
I think you just made up a new phrase for me, honestly. Yeah, great. So how I came to realize who I wanted to serve was really kind of the backwards way, was to find out who I didn't want to serve anymore. And that came through experience with other firms and working for, some really, really great bosses that taught me a lot. But, it was mostly making old, rich white men richer. And that's not who really needs the help. It's usually these underserved communities that don't have the financial literacy, or they relied on someone else to take care of that. Typically, for me, it's, women in their 30s to 50s who are either in control of their finances or want to be in control of their finances. They tend to be very emotionally intelligent. We focus very much on the broader view of things. So, what makes them happy? What would make them happier? Trying to balance that happiness on a daily basis for now and making their finances work for that while being responsible about future use so you can give yourself a great gift later on. They are often, a little bit more liberal. They're not necessarily wanting to have a man come rescue them, or they have a very healthy relationship, whether that's with a man or another woman. They want to be able to feel empowered and educated and not just have someone tell them what to do, but explain to them what their options are and why one would work better than the other, or what effect one would have on other sides of their life.
I like that. But
Mhm.
this is a flip side to that question.
Okay.
You mentioned things that you saw at a young age. You're talking about women that are already or somewhat there, but need to make better decisions or don't have the ability to understand what decisions that you make. Is the program also available for the ones that was in your situation at a young age that may need to get this, that may need to be taught these things prior to coming into building financial wealth? Like, how was your program um, um, designed to help the helpless? And let me use the word helpless as a different means. Let me rephrase that. Helpless doesn't mean that you're handicapped. Help means that you don't have the resources right now. So, is your program also designed to help those that are helpless that, come out of high school, that comes out of this and getting ready to start in the workforce? And shouldn't they also have the ability to be taught the same method before they get into those scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am not a gatekeeper, right? People put content out, they are experts in fields, but then they won't share how. They'll share the why, like why you should do this,
Mhm,
but they won't tell you like step by step, how do I do this for myself?
mhm.
And I produce blogs and video content that literally tells you what to do, not just why you should do it. I don't believe in, lifting myself up by hiding that information. That doesn't make any of us stronger, right? I believe that empowered women empower other women, and that leads to greater education, greater confidence, and a stronger force of women out there that are actually aware of their options and aware of the consequences to indecision.
How long has your program been? When did you start the program?
I started this program 2 years ago.
And what was the major need for it? I mean, this just didn't come out of the blue. Was there something in your own personal life that you said you needed to, or was it some stuff that you saw with your friends? What was the calling of this, as far as you're
Yeah,
concerned?
definitely an emotional one. My father got ill really quickly and unfortunately died. And I realized that the time that I was spending commuting back and forth to Tampa And the people that I was serving weren't the ones that, made my heart sing. And so I was going through the motions of, making people richer and not making my life richer. So that was the main driver was all of a sudden, do I want to be spending 10 to 15 hours in the car flipping the bird off because I'm so frustrated in traffic instead of being at home with my family, watching my son grow up, participating in his life, being able to take time off to do important things, and then also lift up women like me who needed that, who would thrive if I just gave them a little bit of help. So it changed my mind on what was important for me and in my life and how I wanted to spend my time.
You mentioned something twice that I paid close attention to.
Hmm.
You said making rich white men richer. Elaborate on that. Because you said it twice. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, what does that really mean? Is she trying to send me are you Morpheus sending me a message or something here? What is that? What is that in what does that entail? What do you mean when you say that?
Well, when you're talking about a population of people who have always had a leg up, right? They're the ones that don't need additional help. Well, and it's not to say, across the board that old rich white men are awful. I mean, my dad was an old white man, not necessarily super rich or anything like that, and he's a great man. But it's more about who really needs the help.
Hmm.
Is it the single mom who's struggling? Is it the woman who went to college and is doing great in their career, but still struggles with sexism and nepotism in the workforce and needs someone to say, like, be their financial hype woman and be like, no, you're doing awesome, but let's make this better. Let's look at not just the financial aspects of your life, but let's look at how to make you happier and using finances as a tool to make that. So it's not necessarily that old white men are the problem. It's that they aren't the ones that need the help.
What were you doing for them that you used the phrase making them richer? Like what was your job title for them?
Senior strategist. So I would come up with financial
Okay, okay,
strategies.
now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd come up with financial strategies for them. So whether that was investments, whether that was tax efficiencies, and a lot of them great human beings, but they were making, millions into tens of millions. And that's not where I
Well, I
wanted to
think this
spend my
brings a
time.
little bit of what you call master's degree to your program. Now that we know what you did to help these individuals
Yeah.
become richer. Um, what did your husband say about your idea? That you was tired of making the rich richer and not knowing if they were giving back to I take it they really wasn't giving a lot of the wealth back to the community. It's probably another reason that you got pissed because you seen your own family struggle to this, and you have I say all the time, if every millionaire was to take billionaires and sounds like take at least so much of their money and give like so much to every poor person, it'd change the economy like crazy. It's kind of like, why are you holding on to all of this? When you die, you're going in the pine box or you're getting cremated. I never understood this concept. Like, why hoard versus giving like what you're doing, seeing the bigger picture and try to help everybody in the same process. Um, you have a close relationship with your husband. I know he's felt your pain and seen your pain. What did he say when you brought this idea to him?
Yeah. So I'm
You
pretty sure my husband has never said no to me. He is a good man. He knows better. Um, he's always known that I was destined for bigger things as well. So when I grief-stricken, well, it wasn't even grief-stricken at this point. I was plotting this before my dad had even passed because I wanted to be able to spend more time at home and with my family. And he, of course, was just completely supportive of it. But I could see in the back of his mind that there was a little something that was absolutely terrifying to him.
Mm.
And it took weeks, if not months, for him to be finally like, I don't know what we're going to do if you're not making any money for X amount of time and leaving your job that's cush, that you have great people that you work with and you're using your brain, you're happy about that. Um, how is this going to look? And at that time, we had an investment property. Our first house we turned into a rental property. And it was labor intensive. We managed it on our own. We didn't have a property manager. It was very cash positive too. So from a finance woman's standpoint, there was no reason for me to say like, no, let's get rid of that. And he came to me very, very honestly, and he was like, if we're going to do this, we need to sell the rental property. I want to have that comfort of several $100,000 in the bank to buffer this transition you're making. And I'm like, no, babe, it's cash positive. It's a great investment, blah, 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 blah. He's like, yeah, but I need this. I don't want to do that anymore. And that's going to make me comfortable
So he
with
went
what's
back
going to
to
happen.
he went back. That's why I said when we first opened up, it all stems from the beginning. So now he's going
Mhm.
back to
The scarcity mindset.
the scarcity mindset from what
Mhm.
he how he grew up in his family, but
Yeah.
you're trying to change that narrative because you saw both sides of the picture, but then the loss of your father really kind of like made you realize what could you have done if you probably went this route to begin with.
Andre, I truly believe that everything happens for a reason and in the order that it happens, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to have these steps. And like I said, it wasn't about figuring out who I wanted to serve, it was figuring out who I didn't want to serve. And so if I had taken those steps and I hadn't got those experiences and hadn't got really crystal clear on who I wanted to be helping and why I wanted to be helping them, then I mean, what's the point? Could have done it earlier.
You said
I
that
mean,
so
mhm.
beautifully. And
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
my hat's off to you. I mean, it's divine order is divine order. You just got to figure out your role in it. That's what I tell people. Figure out your role in it. So the ideal that at such a young age that you are, that you realize, you know what, they got enough. How do I take this knowledge and take it to a different place? But let's go back. So you guys both, what was the outcome? Did you come to a mutual agreement? And why did you come up with the agreement that you came up with?
Yeah, so I listen to him, and he rarely, really stands his ground on something like that, especially if it comes with financial information with it, right? Like I've already got it all worked out. I've plotted it out in the spreadsheets, all of these things. And from an emotional standpoint, I was like, okay, yeah, like I hear you and I hear what you're saying, and it's not wrong. Yeah, maybe it's not the most financially efficient way of doing things, but if that's going to make you happier and in turn me happier, then yeah, let's do that. So we sold it and we did it tax efficiently because that's who I am. And I have no regrets about it. Absolutely not.
What do you, now that you look at it, foresight 2020, how was
Mhm.
it a benefit for you moving forward with your company?
It allowed us to continue living the life that we wanted to live
Mhm.
without having to make big cuts by, basically halving our income. It also it was a huge weight off of both of our shoulders, not having to manage a property, not having to go and spend weekends fixing it up and finding new tenants and all of these things. Everyone talks about like, oh, passive income. It's just the greatest buzzword. It's a lot of work. It's not as passive as you think.
Yeah.
So it took a big weight off of both of our shoulders as far as that goes. And we got to spend time doing things that we loved as opposed to being property managers.
Let's talk about something that is going to kind of relate to what you just did with that property. And you can tell me, do you run into this when it comes to women? We see it more with men, risk versus reward. That was a risk in believing in yourself and believing in the bigger picture, which comes with cost. Nothing comes without risk. But you're trying to teach these women to invest in themselves. What's the ratio of women that are too afraid to take the risk and put it in themselves? Even the ones that you said have the cushion and have the means, it's still that risk factor. How much of a percentage, since you like dealing with percentages and numbers, do we see women afraid to take that plunge because of the fact I'm comfortable where I'm at? I hear you, but I really don't want to go there. Or I got to stay in this marriage. It's a lot easier for me to go look for that safety cushion. Because I hear a lot of women say, I didn't love him. I just married him. I'm like, well, why did you do that? Well, financial. I mean, have we gotten to the point in this society that the risk versus rewards don't add up?
Yeah, so Andre,
You wasn't prepared for all this today, were you?
no, well, no, I love this. This is the gooey stuff that like I love to camp out on. I mean, if you just want me to talk about finance, like sure, I'll talk about it all day. But the gooey stuff is what really matters. So I'm going to flip this back on you.
Okay.
So I would say quite the opposite now is that women in general are finding that they don't need a man.
You got that
They,
right. I hear that all the time on social media. I'm like,
yeah.
really?
Well, I mean, you hear, I don't need no man, but
Yeah.
like that's not what you're also seeing out and about. Women are becoming as educated as men historically.
Right.
They are running businesses. They are being in the C-suites. They are doing everything and more, and somehow staying out of that moniker of being a bitch. And they're making money. Yeah, there's still, disparity there between men's salaries and women's salaries, but they're out there doing it. So it's not necessarily that I'm seeing more women that aren't afraid to take those risks. And maybe this is a little skewed and biased as well, because the ones that I speak to are the ones that are prepared to start taking these risks. Um,
What do
there
you
are
mean when you say
still,
prepared
Mhm.
to take it? What do you that's a big word. What do you mean when you say prepared?
Yeah, so when they come to me, they've already made a decision,
Okay.
right? They've made a decision that they want to do better financially. They want to have more control. They want to be educated on their options. So, as you likely know, us women, we're overthinkers. Before we say yes to something, we've already come out with a million reasons why we should say no, right? So when they come to me, they're ready to start making moves.
Hmm.
So they're prepared in the sense that they're emotionally and mentally prepared to start exploring these things. Now, traditionally, yeah, women tend to be less risk takers as far as like investments, but they are more calculated.
Okay. Makes sense.
Mhm.
What two-part question? How much money? Because it still boils down to money.
Mhm.
How much money should a female start with as it comes to investment? Like what's a good amount of money for somebody to come to you and say, this is what I got. I'm 25 years of age. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got $10,000. What's a good price range to really have a woman to come to a table and start mapping investments and all this kind of stuff that you're talking about, where she can feel
Yeah,
comfortable in the long run, let almost like a retirement package, but she doesn't have the education to go with it. You know what I mean? But she's working a job, it's paying some bills, but she still doesn't want to be caught between a rock and a hard place. So, what would you tell a woman like that? Like, what's a good amount to start trying to leverage?
$1. Like start now, start small,
I don't know why I
stick with
said a
it.
dollar. I was thinking a dollar. Great minds
A
think
dollar,
alike.
a dollar. If you ask this to your traditional financial advisor, they're going to have a minimum that they require to invest with them,
Right, I hear that
right?
all the time. Yeah.
And it's It's old school. It's not right. It's biased. I don't play that game. But for a woman to start investing, $1 is all you need to start. Like the way things are now with technology, you can buy partial shares and all of this. There's nothing holding you back as far as that goes. But if you are being financially responsible, which is far beyond just investing and growing your money, I would say that you need to have a decent emergency savings before you start essentially gambling with what other money you have. And you have to be really aware of what your expenses are and not get caught where you are, again, making that bag of choices for yourself smaller, right? We're trying to grow these things and keep options and keep flexibility while still having control. So yeah, $1 is all you need to start investing. And especially if you're 25 and you're working and you don't have as many responsibilities like a mortgage or children or, what have you, um, it's just time to
How
start.
powerful is that dollar? I'm coming to you. I'm a female. I'm young. Here's $10. This is all I got. How powerful can you make that? How powerful is that dollar in your in the bigger scheme of things? With somebody that's say 25 years old, how powerful is that dollar?
I mean, the power of compound interest is massive, but the real power that lies within those first dollars, those first tens of dollars, those first thousands of dollars is the ability and confidence building that you're doing within yourself that you know that you are able to do this, that you don't necessarily need someone else to do it for you. When you have enough education behind yourself and you start to get comfortable with it and you have experienced some losses and you've experienced some gains, there's the real power behind it, right? Is
Mhm.
that all of a sudden you're smarter and you know that you can do things for yourself. Maybe at some point you don't want to do them for yourself and you hire someone like me to do them, but it's just the act of taking that first step, albeit small, that builds and builds and builds.
Okay, so let's get real.
Okay.
There's just as many men listening to my voice and your voice. Why the shift more to women than men?
Well, if I'm being completely honest with
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
I probably have an equal amount of men that I work with.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And they come to me for many different reasons.
What are some of
They
the reasons?
come,
Don't leave me like that. What are some of the reasons they come to you?
so they come
We
to
share
me.
resources and knowledge on this show.
There's no gatekeeping, babe. So they come to me for a variety of reasons. One of them being that they want someone that their wife is comfortable talking to.
Okay.
They realize that they'll probably be the first one to kick the bucket, and that's even with younger people. They want someone that their wife isn't being glazed over in the meetings. Whether they are the financial leader in the family or not, they want someone that's comfortable with them. Second part is that they want greater emotional intelligence, right? They don't want to have, pissing match with an old school advisor down the road that says like, okay, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is the most financial efficient way. They also want to have that happiness and they want to have somebody that talks to them real to real.
You said something.
Mm.
Old school. What is old school and what is new school?
Old school to me, at least in this standpoint, is somebody who gives advice and doesn't listen back.
Hmm.
All right. It's a one-sided conversation. It's I'm the expert, do what I say and go do it. Don't question it. New school is having a collaborative relationship where we care about each other. We care about what makes us happy, what makes us miserable, what struggles and what triumphs we have. And we build on that, hopefully from a financially efficient aspect, but that's not the thing that leads the relationship, the conversation, the output.
Man, you are like super, super intelligent.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I've gone to school a lot.
Education well done and provided for. I'm sorry about the loss of your father, and I can sense with that great loss, a greater understanding was given at the same time. Um, how can the viewers reach out to you for your services and just be enlightened by educational freedom?
Yeah, I would love if anyone would follow me on Instagram. I'm Robin Makes Plans, Robin like the bird, Robin. As far as if you want to drop me an email, I'm Robin at nestedfinancial.com, and my website is nestedfinancial.com.
Like, give me an example. Like, if a client comes to you, what's the procedures? Like, naturally, we're dealing with a global network. Our show reaches everybody. So, like, what is like the first visit? What you like? What can the customer be? Take me down. I'm your client. What's the order of operation? What do you tell me?
Yeah, I'll take you through the process. So I'm 100% virtual, so I can work with anyone, anywhere. And that makes things really, really easy. So the first meeting is what I call the financial happiness strategy session, and it's completely free. It's 30 minutes on a Teams meeting. And what it really equates to is I want to hear about you. I'll ask you a couple questions to get things going, but I want to hear about you, and I want to ultimately be able to tell you by the end of that call if I think I can help you, and if I can't, I'm going to point you towards somebody I do think can help you because we all have our own specialties and we all have our own expertise. And it's really a personality match for me.
Mhm.
I'm very picky about who I work with because I want to have lifetime relationships that we can celebrate the triumphs and we can grieve together when things don't go well. After that point, if we decide that it is a good idea to go work with each other, and there's no conversation about money or dollars or anything like that. Like, I literally don't care how much is in your bank account, and I don't care if you have investments. I want to know what's bothering you and if I can help you with it. So after that, we will go on to another free session. It's an hour workshop where we literally will sit down and start talking about the finer things. We want to talk about the goals and what makes you tick and what makes you happy, and then fill in some blanks with some numbers there so we can kind of get an idea of what we're working with and how complex it would be. And at the end of that meeting, I can say, okay, I do think I can help you. I think we should work together. I'm inviting you to work with me, and this is the cost associated with it. Then after that, we start diving into the planning, the real planning. So the first real meeting we have is a get organized meeting where we sit there and go through all of those documents, tax documents, pay stubs, all of the things that build up your financial life. And we start organizing that so we can understand that deeper and better and clearer. So I can educate them back on what I'm seeing, if there's any red flags that need to be fixed immediately, which sometimes happens,
Mhm.
or if there's things that like we should discuss, like, hey, have you thought about this? Or why were you doing it this way? Not from a judgmental place, but pure curiosity. I want to know what makes you tick that way. And then the next meeting that we go to is we start exploring those options, right? So now I've had a chance to analyze all the finances. I've gotten to know you. We've discussed where you want to be. And now I'm going to start building that path there. So we start discussing, like, hey, you have three options here. And I try to keep it pretty tight to maybe three options because I don't want this to be like the Applebee's menu where it's overwhelming and you don't know what's going on
You must have
anymore.
read my mind when I'm with Applebee's. I was like, this is too
Too
much right
much.
here.
So,
Yeah,
like, am I having wonton tacos or am I having mozzarella sticks? Like,
yeah, yeah.
there's too many things going on there. So, I like to narrow it down. And then, as we explore those options and start to feel comfortable with them, I can explain, okay, these are the pros and cons of this one. This is how it affects other options down the line. What feels best to you? Once we've had that discussion, then I go and start building out the full plan, like a pathway to their happiness, to their financial happiness. And so that last meeting is going through that, and I get to educate on the options. I get to paint the picture of what life is going to be if you do this and why you're doing this, and trying to keep that focus on there. So
Right.
then after that, I say, okay, here is a list of things that you have to do. And it's usually a really freaking long list. It's pages of pages, right? Like, go to this bank account, open this account, put this amount of money in there, and do this. like really detailed instructions. And it's their decision at that point if they want to go and do that on their own, or if they want more of a helping hand and they want to hire me, as a traditional financial advisor to manage their investments and to head these conversations 2 to 3 times a year.
Wow. You gave a lot of information to the viewers. I
I hope
strong
it wasn't overwhelming. I try to keep it basic.
I strongly suggest that you guys reach out to Robin and try to empower yourself, whether it be women or men. But in her case, she's definitely trying to impact women, and I strongly agree. You always come from your own experience first, and you recognize experience that happened to you first as a female and resonate that down. Robin, thank you so much for taking the time to come on to the show. Once again, Robin, how can the viewers reach out to you for those that tuned in late or tuned in at the end? How can they reach out to you?
You can slide in my DMs at Robin Makes Plans on Instagram, or you can email me at robin at Nested Financial or www.nestedfinancial.com.
Robin, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe, click, touch a button. Like I said at every episode, all it takes is you guys picking up the one phone, looking at somebody's profile, sharing that information, passing that information on to somebody else, make a difference in somebody's life. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.